If you want to see how I actually got on foil and was able to pump with Foildrive and my Pumpfoil board, stick around. If not, see you guys in the next one. Welcome to Matt on Foil. So this is episode 3 of my Foildrive journey. In episode number 2, if you missed that, it's linked up here. I already downsized from the 74-liter board to my Pumpfoil board, but as you can see here, I had some problem with the trigger of my remote, so I had that exchanged and went back in the water the day after. I've done half an hour, 45 minutes already, so I was a little bit used to it, but again, you really need to push yourself forward in order to get that thing going. But I was on my knees pretty quickly this time, but there again, having that balance in the pitch axis is super difficult. Also, as the trigger on the remote is super delicate and a little movement makes a lot of impact, you really need to keep pushing hard and finding the balance. The pitch axis is super important. But if you get too high, you breach and you fall like this. So that's what happened. So that's how it looks on the board. Super difficult to stay at the same angle, get on the knees, find that balance. If you hit the water, usually it's game over because the board doesn't shoot you back up. All right, so getting on foil is not that simple, but before doing that, you actually need to get speed. And with a small board like that, it's not as simple. If you just lie on your board like a surfboard, then the board is below the water surface. And let's say this is the water surface. So the board will be under the water surface. You would be around the water surface or also a little bit below, and then pulling the trigger, you push too much water, so you don't really accelerate. So what I did was I tilted the board like this, and pulling the trigger, the board went up. I also pulled myself against the motor up and then put the board flat and put me over the board. So really making this movement with the board, then pulling myself towards the front while keeping accelerating. Like that, I was already on the water and not way below. So that helped to accelerate, and from there on, continue pulling the trigger and get on your knees as soon as possible. Here you can see how long it takes. This is one example, not especially going full speed, but as you can see, 5 seconds and you're on the foil already. So you get used to that. Standing up on the other side, yeah, that's a little more difficult. And as you can see, I fell quite often there again because sometimes I stood up the wrong way and I had my left foot forward when usually it's my right foot forward. So once I managed to actually get up on my good side, it went a little bit better. And I suddenly realized, all right, it is possible. I just need to give it a few more goes. So here you can see, still trying, still falling quite a lot, but always a little improvement. And that's always, as you know, on foil, it's always good when you feel that little bit of improvement. So that's really important. And I show you my fails as well because really I'm not the best foiler. I would say average. So it might be the same for you. Do you see these pros all the time and they just do it very easily? Here is some real life footage of an average foiler trying to master that Foildrive. But then suddenly it felt a little better. Always focusing, getting on my knees. That's why I make my weird face, because I'm super focused. And then suddenly it felt like normal, like pumping. Of course, the pod, which was pretty deep, and I only have to had the 75-centimeter mast, it dipped in the back, and I felt it and I heard it, but really it wasn't that bad. So I was able to pump, I was able to get height on the mast as well, which was amazing. And here you can also see how it looks from the outside. It was tiring, also because I was just too low and my stance was too far apart. But that was the first time that it actually went well. And it somehow clicked. So maybe once or twice I still fell while standing up, but other than that, it was actually pretty good. And I was able to get up on foil, on my feet, pretty consistently. And I was able to pump around, even though it didn't look that well. But here you can see, I'm just pumping without the motor. I even let go of the remote to show you that I'm not pulling the trigger. Here you can see it dangling around. So yeah,
that's some real pump foiling going on. Now, one of the obvious questions is, why would one put a Foildrive on a Pumpfoil board? That's a valid question, really. But here at Lake Garda, there weren't that many docks available. And I can imagine if I'm at a beach and my beach start is probably pretty rusty, I haven't done it in a while, and I also am scared to scratch my gear, then why not using the Foildrive on a really small board to get up on foil, maybe get in a few waves, maybe some wake thieving as well. Why not? Because having a bigger board here really doesn't make that much sense anymore, because for the pumping, it is much easier if you have a light board. You have that, what, 5-ish kilogram of the Foildrive, but if you then have a 1.5 kilogram board instead of maybe a 4 or 5 kilogram board, there it can make the difference, and it adds really time on foil. So really that makes a lot of sense. Dipping the pod back in the water and re-accelerating wasn't something I was able to do that day, but hey, that was the second day with the Pumpfoil board. It was also session number 3 of me using the Foildrive, so I was pretty happy. If you haven't seen episode number 1 and 2, make sure to check those out. Subscribe if you want to see the next episode, and that was the day after. I was trying to go for a downwinder with a local surf shop owner, which is cool. Later on, I'm going to show you if you should put your Foildrive on your wing foil gear, and why that would make sense, or if it's a total bust and it sucks. So make sure to stay around and subscribe for more content. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. See you guys in the next one.